Going straight to business, we shall now all rise for the national anthem. Shall recite it, and the second sound of the national anthem will be our national prayer. We'll say it immediately after.
Let me start by recognizing the appointment of the chairman and members of the FIRS board is in line with the powers conferred to the National Assembly for confirmation, in line with the provisions of the FIRS Establishment Act. I also wish to express our profound appreciation to the Senate for their very prompt confirmation of the members of the board. To the chairman and members of the board of FIRS, being a board member of such an important revenue agency comes with grave responsibilities. Indeed, under the FIRS Establishment Act, the board we are here to inaugurate today is charged with various responsibilities, and this includes having overall supervision of the FIRS by providing general policy guidelines, managing and superintending over the FIRS policies on matters relating to the administration of the revenue assessment, collection and accounting systems for taxes under applicable statutes, reviewing and approving the FIRS strategic plan, superintending over the employment, remuneration, and disciplinary measures for FIRS employees in consultation with the National Salaries, Incomes and Wages Commission, and with the approval of the Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, making rules and regulations that may be necessary or expedient for giving full effect to the provisions of the FIRS Establishment Act of 2007. We are confident that under the oversight of this board, the FIRS will continue its transformation into a premier revenue collecting agency with a relentless commitment to enhancing good governance, probity, excellence and integrity in its operations, in its administration and in management of the nation's tax systems. The inauguration of the board of FIRS could not have come at a more critical juncture. Our economy has clearly turned the corner, with real GDP growth increasing from 2.1% in the first quarter of 2019 to 2.28% in the third quarter of 2019, reflecting continuous improvement in economic fundamentals and our strategy of pursuing more diversified, inclusive and sustainable growth over a medium-term horizon. The improved security situation in various parts of our country has improved the business environment, providing greater income-generating opportunity for businesses and supporting the improvement in oil production levels. These macroeconomic trends and factors are extremely important to our revenue-generating strategies, given the dependence of non-oil taxes such as company income tax and value-added tax on strong economic performance, on increased investments by businesses as well as by entrepreneurs, and higher income levels for consumers to support a robust demand for goods and services. In this regard, the Strategic Revenue Growth Initiative (SRGI) articulates distinct strategies for improved domestic revenue mobilization under the Ministry's mandates for domestic revenue mobilization. Specifically, under the SRGI, our strategies are targeting 1. Enhancing revenue growth to GDP ratios. Currently, Nigeria's revenue to GDP has lagged well behind those of our international and continental peers, significantly undermining government's ability to fund critical expenditures without an undue reliance on volatile oil revenues and excessive deficits. In this regard, we're committed to achieving a 15% revenue to GDP ratio over the medium-term horizon. This is up from 6 to 8%, which we have averaged over the last few years. Secondly, the SRGI also targets optimizing technology as a tool to enhance revenue outcomes. we expect the accelerated execution of key automation projects by the FIRS, such as the Harmonized Tax Registry, which I understand is referred to as UTIN, whilst the enhanced collaboration with Joint Tax Board and State Boards of Inland Revenue has resulted in growth of registered taxpayers in Nigeria from 10 million to 25 million, from 10 million in 2015 to 20 million in 2018, we expect the UTIN project, once fully operational, to increase the taxpayer base from this 20 million to 45 million over the medium time horizon. Our priority technology-driven programs include the deployment of e-services, iTax, interagency data exchange, as well as VAT automation by FIRS. And this is to enable the charging of VAT on online purchases via auto deductions by banks who have been acting as agents to the FIRS. This generated over 70 billion in terms of tax revenues in underpaid taxes, and it has also significantly increased the quantum of previously undeclared but taxable assets. In this regard, Project Lighthouse continues to eliminate the gray areas where non-compliant taxpayers reside, and we expect that there will be increased cooperation and collaboration between the FIRS and the Project Lighthouse. Fourthly, we expect that the SRGI, as part of its initiatives, will realize enhanced tax dispute resolution. Since the inauguration of the tax appeal tribunals nationwide, the tax appeal tribunals have resolved over 67 appeals with disputed tax values of over 328 billion naira and 6.6 billion US dollars. Furthermore, the tax appeal tribunals have identified new cases. So they have reported 75 new TAT appeals with a disputed value of 73.3 billion naira and 19.5 million US dollars. Many of these cases will turn on the diligence, dedication, and commitment of tax assessors at the FIRS to provide adequate evidence of tax evasion and underpayment to ensure the eventual verdicts are in favor of the Federation. At this juncture, permit me to express my deep appreciation to the dedicated, diligent, and committed staff of the Federal Inland Revenue Service and their astute legal advisors who have contributed to our recent successes at the tax appeal tribunals. Going forward, we expect that the FIRS will develop best practices in areas where there is need for reforms arising from an in-depth review of cases won and lost at the tribunals. Fifthly, driving the tax reform agenda is also very, very important. As you are aware, Mr. President has assented to the Finance Act 2019 on the 13th of January 2020. The Finance Act is to achieve incremental but necessary changes to our fiscal laws, principally by 1. Promoting fiscal equity by mitigating instances of regressive taxation, 2. Reforming domestic tax laws to align with global best practices, 3. Introducing tax incentives for investments in infrastructure as well as our capital markets. 4. Supporting micro, small, and medium-sized businesses in line with our ease of doing business reforms. And 5. Raising revenues for government, particularly through the increase of the VAT rate from 5% to 7.5%. The Finance Act 2019 is a landmark achievement. Under the SRGI, it represents the first fundamental reforms of the Nigerian tax laws for a decade. And we must thank the National Assembly for making this a reality. This act enacts key reforms to various tax laws in line with the national tax policy, And increasingly, we are transitioning into a tax system that is fairer, simpler, more modern, and strategic in its approach. So what do I mean when I say fairer? In terms of removing tax inequities that have remained too long in our statute books, but also to close tax loopholes which are exploited by tax evaders to avoid paying their fair share of taxes to finance our collective socio-economic development. Our tax laws are also getting simpler. Simpler in terms of having lower rates of taxes, particularly for micro, small, and medium-sized taxpayers. A broader base of taxpayers being drawn into the tax net and fewer tax incentives that may not actually create the necessary and sufficient conditions for investment and economic growth. Our taxes are becoming more modern and strategic in approach. Indeed, the Finance Act 2019 draws significantly from the experience of developing countries in taxing e-commerce and in the cross-border supply of intangible services and value creation across electronic platforms that traverse national borders. Various reforms have been introduced in this act to assimilate global best practices from the OECD-based erosion and profit shifting initiative and to ensure that Nigeria increasingly obtains greater revenues from values derived from our participation in the domestic digital economy. Furthermore, the Finance Act 2019 exempts micro enterprises from corporate taxation and reduces the corporate tax rate for small and medium-sized businesses from 30% to 20%. This is consistent with the current realities that the larger quantum of tax revenues is derived from a smaller percentage of medium and large taxpayers. Accordingly, under the supervision of this board, the FIRS board, we expect that the FIRS will revive the large taxpayers office, target its tax audit and investigations at higher value transactions, and adopt more modern approaches to implement its transfer pricing regulations. Finally, the Finance Act targets aggressive profit shifting by multilateral enterprises by introducing for the first time thin capitalization rules in our tax code. As indicated by Mr. President, we are committed to proposing a finance bill for 2020 to accompany the 2021 budget in our efforts to reform the Nigerian tax laws in line with national tax policies. However, fiscal policies, no matter how astute or how well conceived they are only as effective as practical tax administration permits them to be. It is against this background that I advise that you work to improve the efficiency of the tax administration. It is evident that the tasks ahead of the board members are enormous. You are all therefore expected to hit the ground running immediately after the inauguration. But before I close, I want to state that one of the key provisions in the Finance Act 2019 that has elicited a lot of interest is the increase in the VAT from 5% to 7.5%. And to remind us all that the Finance Bill has made copious provisions to improve the ease of doing business. So we have a category of companies that have turnover of 25% and below that will be paying no taxes at all, so zero taxes. And also we have reduced tax rates for companies that have turnover from 25 million to 100 million from 30% to 20%. The essence of this is to encourage formalization of businesses from the informal sector and also to encourage businesses to grow and become more productive, thereby increasing employment and also meeting the commitment of Mr. President to remove 100 million Nigerians out of poverty over the next 10 years. So the FIRS board has a major task to contribute to this. I want to also announce that the effective date of the VAT increase from 5% to 7.5% will be the 1st of February 2020. In closing, I wish to encourage the new board to ensure steadfastness of the service in meeting non-oil revenue targets to support government's development. And once again, I want to congratulate all the board members and solicit your cooperation to assist the FIRS deliver on its mandate and improve on its revenue generation. My task will only be complete when I formally inaugurate the board. And I want to ask that the board members, for the purpose of the public, starting with the chairman, introduce yourself and stand and remain standing while the rest of your members introduce themselves, and then we'll proceed with the inauguration. Mr. Chairman, FIRS.
Today I sit humbly before you, deeply touched by board members, accept this rare opportunity to serve on this distinguished board, which is the second Federal Inland Revenue Board that will be governed by the provisions of FIRS Establishment Act 2007. May I also express our gratitude to the Honorable Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Zainab Ahmed, the President of the Senate, distinguished Senator Ahmed Lawan, and all the distinguished senators of the Nigerian Senate for finding us worthy to serve on this noble board. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I wish to acknowledge that the responsibility bestowed on us is critical to the smooth operations of the various tiers and arms of government in Nigeria, and by implication, the well-being of the Nigerian people. We are, however, undaunted by the enormity of the task ahead of us. We shall do everything within our powers, God's willing, to achieve our collective goals to justify the confidence reposed in us. Let me stress the fact that the task before us can only be discharged efficiently if we work together as a team and as a united board, and as well as work in harmony with management and staff of the service. Once we are able to work in this manner, we are sure to take the service to the desirable height and ensure maximum increase in tax revenue. As tax administrators and custodians of the Nigerian tax system, we have a responsibility to the nation to implement all tax policies and laws in a manner that will ensure optimal benefit to the nation. We should therefore be committed to providing excellent service to the people of Nigeria. Our sense of responsibility should draw from the fact that the various tiers of government, federal, state, and local, as well as the arms of government, executive, legislative, and judiciary, all rely on us to provide adequate funds for their activities and developmental projects, especially in the face of dwindling and uncertain revenues from the oil sector. We cannot therefore afford to fail them. I must say that this great privilege affords us another chance to serve our fatherland with due diligence and unflinching patriotism. As such, we must dedicate ourselves to the task at hand. For as a people of integrity and proven knowledge in tax matters, the nation looks up to us to provide it with a leeway out of the present economic crunch. We must have faith in our country and in our ability to discharge the task of generating adequate revenue to meet developmental needs of this country. I therefore call on Nigerians to support us and to constructively engage us as we strive towards delivering on our mandate. Indeed, leadership is all about shared vision and responsibility. Let me assure you that I intend to build on achievement of my predecessors in office while building a tax administration that would not only deliver on its mandate, but also that we shall all be proud of. It's quite obvious to me, and I'm sure to any discerning mind, that FIRS is a work in progress, which needs continuous improvement. And so, as it is with any institution in the world or with any human endeavor, FIRS has had its share of challenges, some of which it has been able to withstand so far. It is our duty at this point to strengthen it to withstand and overcome the challenges ahead of us. Our efforts to reposition the service for better service to our esteemed taxpayers will be anchored on 4 cardinal pillars. 1. Rebuilding FIRS institutional framework. 2. Robust collaboration with stakeholders. 3. Building a customer taxpayer-centric institution. 4. Data-centric institution. And for us to be able to do this, and portion to that, but I intend to optimize structures for optimal performance has already commenced and will be unveiled at FIRS Corporate Strategy Retreat that will be holding in February. Corporate Strategic Retreat to define roles and targeting setting. 6. Capacity building on finance bill and other tax programs. 7. Review of tax clearance certificate administration processes, which started in January this year. Revamping of integrated tax administration system ITAS, reposition of large tax and medium tax offices, determination of collection of focus key performance indicators and other key service parameters, repositioning of collections, reporting and accounting, overhauling of critical ICT infrastructure which are cost-effective for efficient service delivery. At this point, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I wish to solicit the cooperation and support of all stakeholders, especially the management and staff of FIRS, in the task of rebuilding and repositioning FIRS for optimal performance. This is our institution and the only source of our livelihood and our country, our homeland. We therefore have a responsibility to make them work better, or we shall all perish with the institution. In this way, the management and staff of the service must renew their commitment and devotion to this so that together we shall succeed. Once again, I thank Mr. President for giving me the opportunity to serve as the Executive Chairman of Federal Inland Revenue Service as well as Chairman of this August Board. It is an awesome responsibility, and by God's grace, I shall not fail those who have confidence in my ability to lead this organization at this critical time. Thank you, and God bless Federal Republic of Nigeria.
I assure you that we in the National Assembly are solidly behind you. We will be working with you closely and also doing everything to improve the revenue generation drive of the government vis-a-vis the Ministry of Finance and the Federal Inland Revenue Service by putting together enabling legislation that will assist in this direction. And I want to equally assure you that we'll be there to carry out our oversight function, but majorly to ensure the success of the Federal Inland Revenue Service. At a time when Nigeria, the President has just signed a finance bill into law, which borders on a lot of benefits and some actions needed to be taken by the Board of Federal Inland Revenue Service and the Ministry of Finance. So once more, on behalf of the Senate President, the Speaker, and the 2 chairmen of the Senate Committee on Finance and its members, I want to congratulate you and wish you the best of luck in office. Thank you and God bless you.
Thank you and enjoy the evening. Now the group photographs, please.
Jiya